Live from Keene, New Hampshire, the most watched TV news show in Keene, the Keene Weekly News with Mark Edgington. Coverage of local and national events starts now.
Good evening. My name is Mark Edgington. You're watching the Keene Weekly News. Today's October the 5th, 2007. Thanks for watching. Now, don't get all bent out of shape if I just don't read the news here. This is an opinion show, too. Big news in Keene. The mayoral race was this week, or, the primary. We've cut down the field of 6 to 2. Looks like, I'm pretty proud of this number. It looks like almost 2,700 people voted. And it's more than 10% in a primary race. By no means a mandate for the hopefuls here, but 2,700 is pretty good. Certainly the people that are interested. And the two surviving are, Philip Dale Pregent and William A. Beauregard. So those are who we're going to have to choose between when it comes to the primary here on November the 4th. I haven't made up my mind. I don't know if I'm going to vote for either of them, honestly. I refuse to vote for somebody I don't know what it is that they stand for. I won't just vote for a name I saw on a sign or somebody I happen to have met in passing and they were nice to me or something like that. What I want to know is, how are they going to protect my wallet? Here in Keene, we have our taxes are just really high on the property, and I want to make sure that the guy who gets in there is going to be concerned about protecting the incomes and the wealth of the citizens of Keene. So, be pretty interesting to see how Pregent and Beauregard shape up here. Other big news in New Hampshire, not so much Keene. Looks like the Browns have been apprehended. Apparently, the federal agents managed to go in masquerading as some supporters and I guess threw down on him before Ed could draw his 9 or whatever it is that they were planning on doing, and took him into custody, and, now they're in jail. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on what I think about Ed and Elaine Brown. Met them. Elaine seems very nice. Seems like she's got a great story, and I liked her. But I thought jail was for people that hurt people and stole things. Because from what I can tell, they didn't hurt anybody and didn't steal anything. Unless you consider not paying your taxes stealing from us all, which is ludicrous. If you're stealing something, you take something that belongs to someone. If your money belongs to the government, then that means the government owns you, or at least owns a piece of you. It owns your labor, what you're willing to work for, and it can just take it away anytime it wants. That is a ludicrous notion. If so, we are not a nation of free men. We are a nation of slaves, slaves to the government. That's all an income tax is. It's a slavery mandate. Now, what do I think about Ed Brown? Well, he's got some pretty preposterous notions. I'm really glad that neither of them got hurt, but these are 5-year sentences that these people in their 60s have to serve. I don't know what the prison system's like in New Hampshire, but I would imagine it's not very pleasant. How long are 60-year-old people going to survive in prison? 5 years? If they don't make it 5 years, were these actually death sentences? I just want people that steal things and people that hurt people to go to jail. And I think the rest of us, we should be able to solve those problems without throwing people in jail, without pulling guns. That's all. Here's one. Apparently 50 are rallying against the SCHIP veto. When the chips are down, get vocal. That message rang loud and clear on Thursday when 50 people gathered in Keene Central Square to protest President George W. Bush's recent veto of a bill to renew and expand the state children's health insurance program. The event organized by, Working Families, a nonprofit group called Working Families Win. I work. I have a family. I don't want SCHIP. Do these people represent me? I'm not sure. It's kind of some of these name games. I think George Orwell warned us about that crap. I want kids to have insurance. Absolutely. But when you talk about government insurance, the reason I read the Ed Brown story before this is, what if I don't want to pay? What if Ed Brown doesn't want to pay for children's health insurance program? Now, I know it's for the children, but can't you use that excuse for everything? I mean, really, every government program out there, it's always for the children. Pretty soon we're going to have created a world that none of us can live in for the children. I think that people are responsible for taking care of the health care of their own children, and they get to direct it themselves. Now, when you're talking about health care that the government provides, you don't get to direct it. They give you what they want. That's all. Do I think there should be charities for children's health care? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a lot of people think that. People like St. Jude's and the Shriners, they think that too. Somehow we're able to pay for children's health care through St. Jude's and the Shriners without pointing guns at people like they pointed at Ed Brown when they took him to jail. I don't know. I mean, I just think we can come up with a better system than the government forcing a certain type of health care on us and forcing us to pay for it. Most of these bureaucracies, like the SCHIP and that kind of thing, the numbers come out to 70% of the money goes to middle-class bureaucrats. 30% goes to whatever the program was meant for. That means that all those people working in those programs, all those government bureaucrats, they're the ones that are getting the money, not the poor people. It's a scam. You don't see that happening with the Red Cross. You don't see that happening with the Shriners. You don't see that happening with St. Jude. Far, far more of their money goes to helping people, not to administrating a bunch of government bureaucrats. Here's a great headline. I love this one. Canada-US border full of holes. Big, huge, gaping holes in the border with Canada. Oh my God, we're all gonna, I don't know what. What's gonna happen? Is the big red monster to our north gonna roll across the 47th parallel and take us over? What? The Canadian border's full of holes? Last time I saw a Canadian, they were in a restaurant spending money here in New Hampshire. I don't think we have much to worry about from the Canadians. I don't think we need a secure border with the Canadians. Now I know what some of you are thinking out there. I can hear it. You're thinking, but what about the terrorists? The terrorists are going to get through. They're going to slip through. They're going to fly into Montreal, and they're going to rent a car and then slide right through the border there at Vermont. And then they'll blow up a building or something. Well, my first question for you would be, if the terrorists were going to come down from Canada, and if our war with the terrorists started on September the 11th, 2001, it doesn't take much math to tell you, well, that's been 6 years. And one would assume if the U.S.-Canada border is full of holes, that it's been full of holes for the last 6 years. So, are the terrorists really after us? I just wonder. I mean, obviously something happened on September 11th. Clearly something did. And if the terrorists are after us, whose fault is it? Is it the evil mullahs out there telling their people that the United States is bad? They love Coca-Cola and Britney Spears more than they love God. Is that really what they're telling people over there in the Middle East? Really? Come on. I wonder if they're saying the great Satan has been messing around in our politics for the last 100 years. And if we don't smite them where it hurts, they won't get out of our politics. I would think that that's what they're telling you. Just call me crazy. You wouldn't be the first by any stretch of the imagination. But I would think that that makes a lot more sense. Because it's pretty easy to get people whipped up about a foreign power being involved in your government and a government that likely subjugates their own people. I don't know, there's a lot of kings over there, and here in the United States we fought a war against a king to get our freedom. I wonder if we would have fought a war against a king and whatever country was helping that king to get our freedom. Now, I'm not calling the terrorists freedom fighters. I don't think they're fighting for freedom. I think they're fighting to subjugate their people in some kind of awful religion that they have cooked up over there. Some kind of bastardization of what Islam really is. But I also don't think we should be involved in those people's business any more than I think that Saudi Arabia should be telling us how we should live our lives over here in America. I say we get out of their business. And that way we can have a nice big open border full of holes with Canada so they can come down here and spend money. Do we really want to be turning back Canadians? Because they come in and they spend money. Do we want to run? Do you know that foreign tourism is down 20% in the United States since 9/11? Gee, I wonder why. What could it be? What could be keeping the foreigners away? Do you think they're scared that they're going to get caught in a 9/11 type accident? Or do you think our government has just become too oppressive to people trying to get in the country? I don't know. I haven't tried to get in the country as a foreign citizen. It's going to be really difficult for me to do that. It would take years and years of preparation. I have gone through customs. I mean, I came back from a foreign country since 2001, but I think our government is creating problems for us to deal with. And I don't like it. I think this is kind of wrapped up in that SCHIP story. Effort hoped to address children's mental health. That sounds good. We're going to address children's mental health. We want children's mental health to be good. The state's largest health foundation says it's teaming up with local organizations in an effort to improve mental health care for New Hampshire's children. There you go. Organizations and health foundations, they're teaming up and stuff. That's great. The Endowment for Health today announced it was embarking on a 5-year project with several organizations to focus on 3 areas. Now listen to the 3 areas. Integrating children's mental health care in schools and primary care settings. So there's going to be mental health screenings in schools? What happens if your child fails? What happens if they decide that your kid is mentally deranged? They have ADHD or they need to be on Ritalin. What if you don't think that that's true? What if you don't want your child, who might be a little, I don't know, happy-go-lucky, and you don't want him on Ritalin or her? What happens? Just wondered. I'm just posing a few questions here. These people have 3 points in their little agenda, and I've just got some questions about their agenda. Whenever you start mixing government into things, and that's what it sounds like to me, you have problems because you force people to do things. All right. Their second point is promoting interventions. Promoting interventions. Does that scare anybody like it scares me? They're going to intervene? Who are they intervening with? Who are they intervening between? Now, I understand an intervention can just be for the individual. So you could have an intervention. The adults could get in and intervene for the 6-year-old. That'd be good, right? That'll work. Or they could get in and intervene with the parents. What if the adults that are, at these schools and primary care settings, what if they think that the man, what they'd like to do is different than what the parent would like to do? Intervention. Sounds like they know a lot better how to take care of your kids than you do. I was just talking to somebody today who has a child in public school. They've changed public schools. I don't know how it is that they go about doing that. I didn't ask that question. But they've changed public schools because the public school that she was sending her boy to, thought that it would be a good idea if they doped her son up on a regular basis with Ritalin so that he'd be easier to deal with in the classroom. Yep, that'd be a good idea. Just dope him up. He's a distraction. Suddenly this new school she's sending them to, she feels is a better school and is doing a great job in taking care of the child. It's also a public school, I'd like to point out. How can it be that one teacher at one public school can do such a better job than another teacher at another? Interventions. All right. Last point. Oh, I see. It's the primary schools. And those are the 2 points. Essentially, primary care settings in schools is a different point. I don't know. Mental health screening. It's such an amorphous thing when you're talking about mental health. Who gets to decide who's mentally healthy? I'm sure that psychologists and psychiatrists can make an argument that none of us is actually mentally healthy. So, if somebody decides that you're not, then what? When does it stop at schools? When are we going to get mental health screenings for us all? What if my opinions on how they do things here in Keene makes me crazy? Are they going to take me away? Intervene in my life? Have an intervention with me. What's that intervention going to look like? You going to hook me up to a 12-volt battery? You will comply. I don't know. They're going to dope me up so I can't even think. Let's talk about a little success that our local government has had. The bike bandit has been arraigned. That's right. Robert L. Clark grinned and winked and stuck out his tongue as he was arraigned Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Concord on charges of bank robbery. Clark, 31, of Turner Falls, Massachusetts, was focused on his 17-month-old daughter, crying while cradled in his wife's arms. This little sentence here gave me an idea. I wonder if Clark was committing bank robberies to feed his 17-month-old daughter. Was he committing bank robberies to protect her? Was for health care? Was that the reason? Is it okay for Robert L. Clark to go into a bank and rob people as long as he's doing it for his child? I mean, he's doing it for the children after all. Isn't it okay? Isn't taking money from people through threats of violence wrong? Whether Robert L. Clark does it or whether some government organization does it? I don't know. Just crazy old me talking here. This one, there's a little quote in here I'd like to read. "It's great," said Lieutenant Peter S. Thomas of the Keene Police Department. "We had 2 guys working on it pretty much around the clock." And, you know, I'm not going after the police for working on bank robberies. Absolutely not. I would not do such a thing. I don't think that it's the police's role, really, to solve bank robberies. I think that largely what they're to do is to come in after a crime, clean up, give people forms for their insurance companies and that kind of thing. Obviously, the banks weren't too concerned with it either. Otherwise, they would have hired private investigators to go find old Robert L. Clark, right? Clearly, the banks didn't care. Heck, they print the money out of thin air anyway. What difference does it make? But when he said he had 2 guys working on it pretty much around the clock, I don't know what around the clock means. Let's say that it was 2 police officers, detectives. Let's say they put in extra hours, 50 hours apiece, 100 hours in the last 3 weeks. That's 300 hours, right? Okay, let's give them that kind of number. I wonder how many cops they had out there busting college kids for their smoking pot or pulling people over and getting them tickets for going 5 miles, 10 miles over the limit. Just wondering. It seems to me that the police department, I'm not talking about police officers here, I'm talking about the upper echelon who give the orders, who tell them what to do. I think police officers, we need them. I think in Keene we may have too many, but that's hiring that the upper echelon does. Talking about the upper echelon here. I think they're awfully concerned about doing the things that make them money. Tickets and drug busts, stuff where they can really rake in the dough. How much money did they get when they busted Robert L. Clark? I'll bet none. So what's their motivation for getting him? Doing the right thing, doing what cops are supposed to do? Let's hope that that's what they're doing. Absolutely. But money motivates people. And I think that the upper echelon of the police department has probably spent a heck of a lot more than 300 man-hours in the last 3 weeks combing the city for people that might be, I don't know, not stopping all the way at a stop sign, driving too fast, that kind of thing. If, in fact, we wanted to stop people from speeding, we would have little cameras up that would tell us how fast things are going. They've got one up on Marlborough Street. It's not a camera, it's just the gizmo that tells you how fast you're going. So when I'm going 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour down Marlborough Street, I can see what my speed is. I wonder if they put that there just for the cops to see how fast because they're the only ones I've ever seen speeding down the street. I've never, ever seen anyone speed down Marlborough Street except for somebody who has their little blue lights on. Probably some cop going to be the third man in on a traffic stop. If they really wanted to stop this speeding stuff, they put up cameras and catch speeders, lickety-split. Then there's no speeding. People will stop if they know that they're going to get caught every time for speeding. The thing is you won't get caught every time for speeding. You won't get caught every 100 times for speeding. So it seems, so you want to go a little faster. Maybe the speed limits are set too low. Does that seem like a possibility? Does to me. I often think this speed limit's too low, or I'd like to go faster, but really that's the same thing. I don't know. Seems like the cops are out there making a lot of money. Not the cops, but the upper echelon sending its police officers out. I think that a lot of those police officers got in the business to have the respect that the badge deserves. I think that people that go out and prevent crimes and catch bad guys and that kind of thing, they deserve respect. But when you have all these speeding laws and they're locking people up for smoking drugs like they did this kid over in FPU, you're making an awful lot of bad guys. All right, students protest police tactics. FPU dorm locked while search warrant is obtained. I'm not defending any of these young men's smarts, okay? Doesn't sound very smart to me to have marijuana, to keep it in your dorm room, any of those things. Not where I'm coming from. The handcuffs that circled Robert Braverman's wrists made him more victim than villain in the eyes of nearly 30 students who rallied in support on Wednesday as police escorted him from his home in Franklin Pierce University. Apparently, some janitor got the idea that there was pot in the room, locked the room up for overnight, and cops came and got a warrant and searched the room and that kind of thing. First off, I don't... legally, do they have the right to lock you out of your residence? I don't know. Does dorm room qualify as a residence? I don't know. But it seems like a big waste of everybody's time. I wonder how many police officers were involved. I wonder how many man-hours you and I paid for to bust these kids, college kids that are in college trying to make a better life for themselves. I wonder how much money we spent in order to give them a permanent criminal record. So that it's going to be that much harder for them to make a good life, that much harder for them to make money so that they can pay their little taxes and stuff. Seems like a waste to me. Here's one I don't want to miss. Apparently, the Supreme Court has ruled that it won't rule on a very strange case. Montgomery, Alabama, the U.S. Supreme Court declined Monday to hear a challenge to Alabama's ban on the sale of sex toys, ending in a 9-year legal battle and sending a warning to store owners to clean off their shelves. Apparently, it's illegal in Alabama to sell, let's call them marital aids, to sell marital aids. What? And then the Supreme Court won't rule on it? Basically leaving it to the lower court's ruling that the law is okay. It's okay for Alabama to have a law that says you can't sell marital aids. I sincerely hope nothing like this ever comes to New Hampshire. But is this disturbing? I mean, we're talking about pieces of plastic and little motors here. You're talking about I don't know, fuzzy handcuffs and stuff. Do we want to keep people from getting those? It seems wrong. It's not my thing, but should I be keeping other people from getting them? These vice laws that we have gotten out of control. Look, it's all the same thing. If you're for laws against gambling and you're for laws against drugs, like the story I just read, then you're for people that are able to say, look, you can't sell marital aids to people, consenting adults. Is that freaky and weird to you? It is to me. All right, let's get back to Keene news here. Talk about that national stuff. Whatever the heck they're doing in Alabama, it's up to them, I guess. Keene Board of Education members made a preliminary recommendation on Tuesday to cap increases to the district's 2008-2009 budget to just under 3%. Good. I'm glad that that we're willing to cap an increase to 3%. Now, I'd like to see where some waste can be cut. And apparently that's addressed here in the next issue, in the next paragraph. We'd like to see that 3% budget looks like, says Finance Committee Chairman Elizabeth Coppola as the committee's Tuesday meeting. At the committee's Tuesday meeting, if the number we arrive at later is 5 or 6 or 7%, if it's really what it is, I'll get up in front of the voters and say, it couldn't be done with 3%. We just can't run the school without 5 or 6 or 7% more. I don't know. Am I a pessimist? The expectation that I, at some point in just before the 2008-2009 budget goes through, that I'm going to actually hear Ms. Coppola say this. We just couldn't control ourselves. We had to spend more of your money. It's not yours. It's for the children. You think about the children. You don't want them to not have computers and stuff. Oh, what a disaster. This whole forcing people to pay for things that they don't necessarily want's a disaster. When it comes to taxes, there's people like Ed Brown who don't want to pay them. And obviously the way the government deals with those people is throw them in jail. My question is, what happens to Granny, who's on a fixed income with her little pension, and she can't pay for it? Now, I know New Hampshire has a program for people who are poor, but what if it's still an onerous burden? She's got a big house from having a family back when her husband worked, and she had 6 kids at home or whatever, and now she's by herself, but it's her house. She loves it. She raised her children there. Her mother raised her there. Her family's been there for generations. Should she have to sell this on a reverse mortgage for the children? I don't think that's right. My name is Mark Edgington. Got any comments on any of the things I've said today? Please feel free to write me at mark@freekeene.com. That's mark@freekeene.com. Thanks. Have a great week.